The second game week of the Asian Cup is over, and we've actually had a few surprising performances, if not results as of yet. One or two have actually been unexpected. And now, of course, we enter the last game week of the group stage with first, second, and even a few third places up for grabs. This is, of course, the Coach's Corner. We are reviewing/previewing the AFC Asian Cup taking place in Qatar. And as always, you are welcome. Yes, people, the banner says it all. We are previewing AFC Asian Cup game week 3, and of course, I will, of course, be joined by a guest who has just gone to get something. So until that guest does come back, I will be here. And of course, this tournament is something that isn't really given too much attention as compared to the AFCON. But there are, of course, some Premiership players playing and a few other world-class players from other leagues taking part in this tournament. Sadly, coverage of this tournament is over here where I am, it's not really been given that much importance, really. They've chosen to focus more on the T20 League and also the Federation of International Hockey Olympic qualifiers, which have taken pride of place over some of these games. I can, of course, tell you that there is a game going on between Kyrgyzstan and Saudi Arabia, and the last I checked, Saudi Arabia were leading Kyrgyzstan by 1-0. And, of course, Kyrgyzstan had 2 men sent off, and we are, of course, into the last 10 minutes of the game. Saudi Arabia, of course, through Mohamed Kano, had scored in the 35th minute, and Kyrgyzstan had Akhmatov sent off in the 9th minute and Kimi Merk sent off in the 52nd. But so far, despite going down to 9 men, they've held off the Saudi Arabians fairly impressively, it must be said. Either that or maybe this team is, of course, a far cry from the team that shocked Argentina and shocked the world in Qatar barely 12 months ago. And I can definitely say that these players and this team will certainly not hold a candle to the 1994 vintage, which went to the World Cup in the USA. And, of course, reached the second stage after 2 impressive wins over Morocco and Belgium, which was a real shocker that time around. And, of course, in 1996, they won the Asian Cup, which was hosted by the UAE, beating the UAE in the final on penalties. A heartbreaking result for the home nation then. That remains their best ever Asian Cup performance. As for Saudi Arabia, of course, under Mancini, a very transitional team indeed, but they're going to obviously find it a bit difficult to go a little bit forward unless they keep some of their more experienced players. Maybe they're being rested, maybe their Saudi League teams are more important. I don't know. But as promised, we will, of course, begin this show with a review of what happened in game week 2. And as I will mention, there have been quite a few surprises. So I'm going to obviously share the screen and let you in on the results, of course. And we are, of course, going to start in Group A. Now, of course, Qatar, by virtue of their win over Tajikstan with Akram Afif scoring in the 17th minute, that's 3 goals in the tournament for him. I wouldn't necessarily say this was a comfortable win, but maybe for some reason, they couldn't quite exert themselves. But with 2 wins from 2, they have, of course, secured their qualification. And that's because earlier on, China played out their second consecutive goalless draw against Lebanon. And it's a bit of a worrying thing for China, given that they haven't been able to score. But of course, if you're a glass half full type of person, you can also say that they haven't conceded. They've kept 2 clean sheets. So as things stand, Qatar, the host nation and defending champions, have secured their qualification, which means that any one of these 3, China, Tajikistan, and Lebanon, could qualify in second place, and another one could end up finishing in third and possibly making it to the knockouts. Of course, in order to give yourself a big chance for reaching the knockout stage as a best third place team, you will need to win. So China will obviously need to win their last game to secure second place, but it will not be easy. Another goalless draw will not help them if Tajikistan and Lebanon sees a winner. It'll probably push them into third and sweating on the fate of the other teams. And my guest still hasn't quite come back yet, but that's not really much of a problem. And it's a bit of a worry for China, who are, of course, ranked quite highly, but they will need to start scoring. And China, of course, will be up against the host nation, Qatar. They'll need to really be at their best, and we will come to that later on. Group B saw another team secure their place in the knockout round, namely 2015 champions Australia, by virtue of another 1-0 win, this time over Syria. Jackson Irvine scoring his second goal of the tournament just before the hour mark, of course, at the Jassim bin Hamad Stadium. And I think it's fair to say that when it comes to these higher ranked teams, they're probably not really exerting themselves as much. And one of the biggest issues in Australia's win over India was that Australia never really exerted themselves too much and took advantage of some mistakes committed by India. And with regard to the performance against Syria, you could pretty much say that Australia did what they needed to do. As far as India are concerned, sadly and tragically for Indian fans, it looks as though their tournament could very well be over. Chastening a 3-0 defeat to Uzbekistan, behind on 4 minutes, 2-0 behind on 18 minutes. They actually went into halftime 3-0 down and went in at halftime 3-0 down, of course. And I suppose to their credit, they didn't concede any more goals in the second half. But clearly, Sunil Chhetri hasn't been able to exert his influence. So Igor Stimac, if he's smart, will probably run a few changes for their must-win clash against Syria. Syria, of course, are on 1 point, having secured a draw against Uzbekistan. And so India will definitely need to beat them and secure a very convincing win over them to increase their chances of qualifying, because they can't finish in the top two. They can only advance via the third place system, whereas Uzbekistan, with their win over India, will guarantee themselves at least a top 3 position. And they will obviously be looking to play as well as they can against Australia. I'm not too sure that they will necessarily get a win out of that. Group C, of course, threw up a bit of a shock. The war-torn Palestine fighting out a very creditable 1-1 draw against the United Arab Emirates. And this is, of course, the same Palestine team that secured a draw against Saudi Arabia prior to the tournament. And we see over here that Sultan Adil Abdullah Al-Amiri was able to put the UAE ahead, and they went in at halftime 1-0 ahead. But an unfortunate own goal, Palestine's second in the tournament. Of course, they had, of course, scored from one of their own players and the loss to Iran, meant that the United Arab Emirates were held to a draw, and Paolo Bento's men were unable to force a winner, which puts the UAE in a comparatively difficult position coming up to their must-win game over Iran, because if Palestine could beat Hong Kong, then they can certainly put themselves into the mix for qualifying to the knockout stages. They will probably need to improve their goal difference, though, get a few goals, and just take it from there. Hong Kong creditably holding out Iran, another case of an expected qualifying team probably taking it easy. Mehdi Gaedi, who plays his club football in the UAE on loan from Shabab Al Ahli, of course. He actually currently plays now for Ittihad Kalba in the UAE, and he actually scored what proved to be the game winner on the 24th minute. So Iran have also secured their qualification. The UAE expected to go through, but they will have a tough time of it. If they lose to Iran, then they will be sweating on the Palestine-Hong Kong game, because they're in a very delicate position, it has to be said. And from Group D, Group D produced probably the shock of the tournament, with Iraq securing their qualification with a fine 2-1 win over Japan. 2 goals from Ayman Hussein, sending them into the halftime break 2-0 ahead. Liverpool's Wataru Endo scoring what proved to be a consolation, and Japan couldn't find an equaliser with time running out. Here is my guest. Big up to you, Bert. How are you?
I'm good, Manny. How about
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, pretty good. Can't really complain. I actually did go through the the review of the first few games, but we will actually do a little bit of analysis right now. Now, going back to Group A, you did say that China wouldn't really have much of a chance of qualifying, and this probably could be a way of proving you right, because they secured their second consecutive goalless draw against Lebanon, and Qatar pretty much took it easy against Tajikistan of all teams, winning 1-0 and sort of not really seeing the need to exert themselves. But Qatar secured the win they needed. They qualified for the knockout stage, and they've also assured themselves um, a victory in the group. They are group winners. So it will be between China, Tajikistan, and Lebanon for second and a potential third place in the group. And with China set to play Qatar and Tajikistan and Lebanon set to face off, this could prove, quite interesting and provide some very interesting permutations. So you might have been right about China. They haven't been able to score, even if they haven't conceded any.
Yeah, yeah. No, I was, I was hoping Lebanon or Tajikistan would beat China in one of the games, but doesn't seem they won't. So seems like Lebanon or Tajikistan will most likely finish bottom of the group because they face each other, of course, in the last group game. And Qatar, if Qatar lose to China, that's that's a disgrace almost. Really.
You could say that, but then China are very delicately poised. A goal differential of 0. Tajikistan have a goal difference of -1. Lebanon have a goal difference of -3. But any awkward, wonky result can flip this whole thing upside down. Because bear in mind, China have to play Qatar in their final group game, and if they lose, they could be in danger of missing out.
Yeah.
And then from Group B as well, Australia taking it very easy against Syria, but securing another 1-0 win to secure their qualification. They haven't yet secured their position as group winners because they have to play Uzbekistan in their final game. And if, as a shocker, they lose, then head-to-head record will determine that they could end up finishing second. In fact, with Uzbekistan and Australia on the same goal difference, an Uzbekistan win will really upset the apple cart, but I don't know if that'll happen. And India's tournament is all but over after a 3-0 loss to Uzbekistan, which means that India's clash against Syria will definitely be a must-win. And it is very hard to see India getting anything from this because they haven't even scored a single goal and they've conceded 5. So it might be between Uzbekistan and Syria to secure maybe second in the group. And if we've got any Indian friends, all I can say is I am sorry. Can you offer any kind of consolation as a Bafana supporter?
That's how it feels to be average, really. Um, yeah. Uh, uh, just know, uh, don't get your hopes up if you play a game. That's really all. Um, don't get your hopes up.
Yeah. Don't know if we have too many comments in the chat. I don't know if people will agree necessarily, but it is what it is. I'll have to shout out PB Talks, Prasanna. He was actually covering both of the Indian games, and he was telling me that unless India do get their act together and arrange more work in terms of pre-tournament friendlies, it'll be the same old story again and again. Group C, of course, we did see a bit of a surprise with Palestine drawing against the United Arab Emirates, and Iran also taking it very easy in their win over Hong Kong, but Iran also securing their progress to the knockout stage. So the UAE are in second, but they're also in a delicate position because they have to face Iran in their final group game. And if they lose and Palestine manage to beat Hong Kong, we could have some very interesting permutations here. What do you think about
Yeah.
this?
Yeah, no, this that group is like the open one, especially what UAE play against Iran, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I think it's UAE against Iran. If Iran win, then they basically through. But Palestine beat Hong Kong. Palestine, they will need to beat Hong Kong by a few goals and need Iran to beat UAE by a good few goals. So yeah, but Palestine, it would be massive for them if they can qualify.
Agreed, because let's not forget Palestine and the UAE have a similar head-to-head record now. So things can get very interesting if those results end up going quite awkwardly. But if Paolo Bento's team manage to beat Iran, that settles the issue. The UAE go through as group winners, Iran will be group runners-up, and Palestine will try and be content with a third-place finish if they beat Hong Kong, which isn't guaranteed. And Hong Kong, of course, 1 goal scored, 4 conceded, 2 losses. Their tournament is almost over, but they will be hoping to try and stop Palestine from progressing. And I think it's fair to say that my heart will be with the Palestinian team. I do hope they can make history. Ana Falestini, Barakallah Palestine. And I'm certain our Arabic friends will definitely provide some translation. But what I said was, I feel Palestinian. May God bless Palestine. Now, Group D, and we have a shock, a bona fide shock. Maybe not so much of a shock given Iraq's pedigree, but the former champions beating hot favourites Japan. 2 goals, of course, from, as I said earlier, Ayman Hussein before in the first half. The second one coming, of course, in stoppage time at the end. And Wataru Endo of Liverpool getting a consolation. Japan couldn't find an equaliser. Indonesia doing their bit to beat Vietnam, and Vietnam, of course, have had their elimination from the tournament confirmed. Vietnam, of course, will have to play Iraq in their final game. I definitely don't see them getting a win over Iraq. I think that would be completely, preposterous. And Japan and Indonesia will next play. Japan and Indonesia will be very interesting because both teams, of course, have 4 points. 3 points each, with a win and a loss. Japan, of course, do have a better goal difference, and I do expect Japan to recover from that shock and end up beating Indonesia to qualify. But
Never know.
Iraq,
Maybe
hmm?
never know. Indonesia. Maybe Japan upset Japan, go out, or finish third. Who knows?
Well, if Indonesia do beat Japan, they by a 1 goal margin that makes their goal difference equal, but it puts Indonesia above Japan. I really can't see that happening, though, and we will talk about that in specifics later on. Another bit of surprise from Group E with South Korea being held to a draw. Song Hyun-min, of course, putting them ahead with a ninth-minute penalty, only for an unfortunate own goal to equalise it for Jordan. Jordan actually took the lead, in fact, in the first half through Abdullah Al Neymat. But another own goal, this time from Musa Al Arab, in stoppage time, spared South Korea's blushes. You hardly ever see two own goals, one being scored each by both teams. And this certainly was a game which very nearly could have been an embarrassment for Jurgen Klinsmann. So we were frustrated, of course, by the lack of shocks in game week 1, but game week 2 threw up a few surprises. And now, as it stands, both Japan and South Korea have an identical head-to-head record. and Japan's goal difference means that they are top of the group. So coming into the last round of matches, I think it's fair to say that both Bahrain and Malaysia are pretty much, out of contention. I know Bahrain did beat Malaysia with
Yeah,
Ijafar Madan scoring in the fifth minute of stoppage time at the end of the game against a Malaysian team that our dear friend Eugene has said looks completely out of sorts. But with Bahrain set to play Jordan and Malaysia set to play South Korea, you really can't look beyond Jordan and South Korea securing their spots. I mean, it's fair to say you can't look beyond them securing their tickets to the knockout stage. And I don't think Bahrain will have quite enough to qualify. Malaysia, lambs to the slaughter, it has to be said, and we will talk about that later. But that Jordan South Korea, the Desmond, what a game that was, eh?
yeah, great game. I think Jordan will feel like it's a loss because they were ahead for so long in that game, and then to lose it in the 91st minute, it's just gutting. They were ahead for what 45 plus minutes, and then to lose it at the end. So yeah, but definitely a few shocks there. South Korea and Japan could both not top their groups, maybe both finish third, which will be massive, massive surprises
Yeah.
um, in the context of the whole tournament.
Exactly. And Jurgen Klinsmann has always had a reputation of being a very lucky coach. You could throw him into the river and he'll come out with a trout in his mouth. Sort of explained his exploits. I use that with quotations with the US team. Can never ever understand his decision to leave out Landon Donovan for that World Cup, but it is what it is. And finally, Group F, and I want to try and give you an update because the last I checked, Saudi Arabia and Kyrgyzstan were still playing, and Saudi Arabia were ahead 1-0, but Kyrgyzstan had a couple of players sent off. Oman and Thailand playing out a very surprising goalless draw. I was expecting Oman to beat Thailand, but as it stands, Thailand have now gone all their way to the top of the group. Although I will check the result right now and see. Yeah, I can confirm that Saudi Arabia have in fact scored a second goal, Faisal Al Ghamdi in the 84th minute, and we are into the 11th minute of time added on. So with this win, for which also they had to huff and puff, and yeah, 2-1 win over Oman, a 2-0 win over Kyrgyzstan. Saudi Arabia now, once this table is updated, they will, of course, top the group. And Saudi Arabia, of course, have now secured their entry into the knockout stages. And this possibly sets things up very nicely for Saudi Arabia and Thailand. And Oman do have to play Kyrgyzstan. But Oman, after the creditable nature of their performance against Saudi Arabia, only to lose to a stoppage time winner, they'll be disappointed with their goalless draw against Thailand. Hanno, are you there?
Yeah, no, they will be disappointed with a goalless draw. Would have wanted something better. And I think Thailand up there is a massive surprise to me as well.
Right. And of course, it hasn't been updated yet, but Saudi Arabia, of course, will have a record of played 2, won 2, scored 4, conceded 1. They will, of course, advance to the knockout stage. And with that, they pretty much secured their position. They will, of course, be playing Thailand in their last game, and we will come to that. And now, of course, once we take a look at the fixtures expected to highlight game week 3, we will now go back to Group A. Qatar against China at the Khalifa International Stadium in Al Rayyan, and Tajikistan and Lebanon to face each other at the Jassim bin Hamad Stadium, also in Al Rayyan. Now, this match between Qatar and China is going to be very, very important for China's future. in the tournament, because if they lose to Qatar, they will, of course, find it difficult to qualify. However, this Chinese team has not been able to score a goal despite not conceding a goal, and I definitely don't see them being able to um, break that duck anytime soon, sadly. Qatar, of course, I think they took their foot off the pedal against Tajikistan. I think they wanted to secure the win, and that's exactly what they did. But I would expect Qatar to turn on the style in this particular game, which will be taking place tomorrow. And both these matches, of course, taking place at the same time. 6 p.m. local time, which will be, I believe, 3 p.m. in the UK, 8:30 p.m. over in India, 11 p.m. in Malaysia, Singapore, and Hong Kong. And of course, all the way in Australia, it will be, I want to say, maybe 2 a.m. in Sydney. But Qatar against China, I really can't see beyond a Qatar win. I definitely don't think they'll want to exert themselves too much. It could very well be that they'll rest some players, of course, having secured their position as group winners. 2-0 to Qatar. What say you, Hanno?
Yeah, Qatar will take it easily. Easy. 2-0. Yeah.
Right. Do we have anyone in the chat? Sadly, no. But it is what it is. I don't think we have too much interest in this tournament, but it is what it is. Maybe once we do a watch along, possibly next week, or definitely for the knockout stages, we might get some interest. Now, of course, we got Tajikistan against Lebanon, and this is a clash which could interestingly also help secure Lebanon's passage to the next stage, or it could secure Tajikistan's passage to the next stage, because a win for either of these teams will secure second place for them. If, of course, China fail to beat Qatar. If China beat Qatar, they go through as runners-up. And it's amazing, really, how with a few results, this group for some other teams has become a little bit more open. I'd expect a huge dogfight between these two teams. Tajikistan, of course, are competing in their first Asia Cup and have, I'd say, done creditably, not disgraced themselves by any means. But this could very well be where their journey comes to an end. I just think Lebanon will be too experienced for them. So for me, Lebanon to beat Tajikistan 2-1 and secure their passage to the knockout stage as group runners-up. What say you, Hanno?
Um. Draw is impossible. I want both teams to go through, but that won't happen. Um. hmm. Let's go. Let's go to Tajikistan. For one would love Lebanon also, but 3-2 Tajikistan.
Ooh, 3-2. Well, a 3-2 win would make Tajikistan's goal difference 0. And it could also, as I've said, secure their spot as runners-up if China fail to beat Qatar. Very interesting indeed. Now we come to Group B. And these are the fixtures. Australia against Uzbekistan. For Uzbekistan, it's simple. Similar goal difference to Australia. If they beat Australia, they secure their position as group winners. Both of them, of course, will advance to the knockout stage. And
Well, maybe Syria. If Syria destroys Uzbekistan and Uzbekistan lose by a few goals against Australia, Syria might qualify in second spot due to goal difference, but they need to win by at least five.
it's going to be
5 goals.
difficult. It's going to be difficult,
So
but because Syria, like China, have not been able to score a goal all tournament, and Tajikistan as well. So India might fancy their chances of a possible consolation victory, but Steamatch will have to make some changes. But as far as Australia and Uzbekistan are concerned, I don't see Graham Arnold making too many changes to his Australian team. He might freshen up the team a little bit by bringing in a few fringe players, but that's pretty much as far as it can go. Uzbekistan, of course, will be determined to win because, as I've said, if they beat Australia, then they will secure their position as group winners, and Australia will also, of course, go through to the knockout stage. So the Syria-India game is effectively a game which will decide third place. Both teams, India have been absolutely awful though, and they too haven't scored. But Australia, Uzbekistan, you can't look beyond Australia's pedigree. Former champions themselves, several Premiership players, several players playing in top leagues, the experience of regular World Cup qualification. You just can't look beyond them. It could be a tight one, though. 2-1 to the Socceroos.
Yeah. 2-1. 2-1 sounds good.
And now, of course, we come to Syria against India. Neither team has scored a goal. And clear for India, of course, their tournament is pretty much over unless they can record a massive win. And if they record a massive win, then things get interesting. If Syria record a massive win and Uzbekistan lose, then things could get interesting. It just comes down to a question of who's more likely to score. And I think unless Steamatch drops Sunil Chetri and brings on some fresh faces, we might not see much hope. There's a part of me that would like to see some goals in this one, but I have a feeling that it's going to be a drab game. I might actually be tempted to go for a 1-1 draw, which will pretty much hasten both teams' exit from the tournament. I can't pick a winner.
Speaking of speaking of 0 goals scored, Syria played one game where it was a 0-0 draw. And that was against Uzbekistan. So I reckon another 0-0 draw is on the cards.
Clean sheets for both keepers. Such a shame that neither goalkeeper will be in contention to win the best goalkeeper of the tournament for conceding so few goals. Right. Now, of course, we come to Group C, where the delicate nature of the UAE's position is put into perspective. Because so far, the UAE weren't as quite good as Iran in their opening fixture. And of course, failing to beat a spirited Palestine team has set them back a little bit. Because although the table says that Iran are first on 6 points and the UAE is second on 4, Palestine on 1 point, if they manage to beat a hapless Hong Kong, who cannot qualify as one of the top 2 finishers, Palestine beating Hong Kong could really put the cat amongst the pigeons and put the UAE in some danger. Now, bear in mind, both teams, if those results happen, will finish on an identical record of played 3, won 1, drawn 1, and lost 1. But then goal difference comes into play.
Yeah.
If the UAE plays... Yeah?
And this is where Iran needs to obliterate UAE. Most likely like 3-0 at least for Palestine to have a chance. And then Palestine must beat Hong Kong. And Hong Kong hasn't lost far. I think 3-2 or 3-1 against UAE or 2-1 and a 1-0 against Iran. So not major score lines. So yeah.
Yeah. What will happen, and what I think will happen, though, is that although the UAE might end up losing to Iran, it will be a tight loss. But they should secure their position as group winners, because if Palestine, in the event that Palestine do manage to beat Hong Kong, and I think they will, it will not be with a big enough margin to go higher than third, although Palestine should be able to throw themselves firmly into the mix as one of the top third-place teams, which would be absolutely creditable, definitely, for that worn-torn nation. But as far as the UAE and Iran are concerned, I think this match taking place at the Education City, a fine place for Iran to give the UAE a footballing education. Maybe not so much in terms of the scoreline, which I think will be tight, 2-1 to Team Melli, but certainly Iran are proving themselves to be one of the hot favourites to go very far in this tournament. Maybe to win it, we don't know. I don't remember them winning in their long storied history. So 2-1 to Iran. Do you concur? Pardon me, please.
I'll go 3-0 Iran.
3-0.
3-0,
Wow.
yeah.
You really don't like the UAE, do you?
No, I just want Palestine to go through.
Ah, yes. And of course, speaking of Palestine, they are facing Hong Kong. And Palestine have scored 2 goals, one of them being an own goal. So Hong Kong have scored only 1 goal, but at least it wasn't an own goal. Not very much to choose between these two teams. And for me, there is a part of me that believes that Palestine will win, but it will not be a comfortable enough win to see them leapfrog the UAE, I'm afraid. I'm going for Palestine to beat Hong Kong, and it will be a tight 2-1 win at the Bin Khalifa Stadium in Doha. What say you?
So let me just work out. So UAE lose 3-0. That puts them on -1. 2-0 Palestine.
2-0 Palestine. Ooh, boy. That leaves them tied on
goal difference
and head-to-head record.
Yeah.
But goals scored will come into play. The UAE will therefore have, and also, goals scored as well. Oh, boy. You really are mischievous, aren't you? Hanno? Well, while Hanno takes a bit of a break, we will, of course, take a look and see Iran's record in the Asian Cup. And they have, of course, been champions of the Asian Cup in 1968, 72, and 76. A hat-trick of titles after not featuring in the first 3 editions. But since then, their best efforts have been 4 third-place finishes. 4th place in 1984, a semi-finalist position in 2019. So ever since their last win in 1976, I wouldn't necessarily say that they were bridesmaids without being brides, but they haven't exactly been able to, make the most of their history. Yeah. But I was just commenting because with the results that you've predicted, Iran 3, UAE 0, and Palestine 2, Hong Kong 0, that puts Palestine and the UAE on identical records of games won, drawn, and lost, goal difference, head-to-head record, and goals scored. And I was just saying, you really are mischievous, aren't you?
Well, let's see what happens. So yeah, what's the next one?
Yeah, before that, we do actually have. I think it's fair to say that. That's dealt with. Now, of course, we come to Group D. Certainly not D for death, but I know you were predicting that if Japan were to lose to Indonesia, then a lot of things could potentially happen. And this match between Japan and Indonesia will really be one which could put the cat amongst the pigeons. I think Japan, for me, should have more than enough to beat Indonesia and secure their spot in the knockout stages. And that loss to Iraq will really have been the kick up the backside they needed. So don't be surprised if Hajime Moriyasu really reads his men the riot act and makes sure that they get their act together. And this match at the Al Tamama Stadium might not be a very pretty one, but Japan should do enough. And I think a common theme will be you won't see too many instances of teams really turning on the style until they get to the knockout stages. It's been slightly tepid, you could say, but 2-1 to the Samurai Blue. What say you? Well, I think once again he seems to be out. I will go back to that game in a minute. And the next one in the group is Iraq against Vietnam. Vietnam, I mean, technically they've been eliminated. And, yep, even if they were to shock the world and beat Iraq, they cannot finish anywhere higher than fourth. And certainly their negative goal difference has not really helped them. And with Iraq doing very well at the moment, certainly hard to see beyond an Iraq win, which will secure their position as group winners. So I might be tempted to go for a 3-1 win for the Iraqis. And it's wonderful to see how that war-torn nation has been able to recover from difficult times to achieve success and do as well as they have. So well done to them. I think while we wait for Hanno, we will, of course, obviously come back to him when he gets back. But we now, of course, go to Group E. And Group E, of course, is far from easy. And obviously, with these games taking place at the same time, a lot will be obviously riding on the outcomes of these games for all teams concerned. South Korea against Malaysia. Malaysia, dead and buried. Played 2, lost 2, scored none, conceded 5, just like India. And, oh, there you are, Bert. So, back to Group D for now. Japan against Indonesia. I've gone for a 2-1 win for the Samurai Blue. What say you?
What? Yeah, Japan. Let's go 3-1 Japan. No, 2-1 Japan, and 3-1 Iraq.
I went for a 3-1 scoreline for the Iraqis too. Good to see that we're in sync when it comes to this group. Now, of course, we're in Group E. Obviously, the disappointing nature of that performance against Jordan shouldn't be too much of a bother for South Korea because they're up against a Malaysian team that have looked absolutely hapless. They're also eliminated. They cannot progress further. And yeah, this is a game, obviously, where South Korea should be expected to turn on the style. Malaysia haven't been able to score all tournament. I don't see them breaking their duck. 3-0 to the South Koreans. And I just think about Eugene. If Heung-min Son were to play for South Korea and score against his nation, I just wonder how conflicted he will feel. Shout out to him, by the way. Wonderful, wonderful fella. What say you, Hanno, about South Korea against Malaysia?
2-0. 2-0.
So, not 3. Hanno? Okay, once again, he's silent, but we do have the second game, which is... Okay, well, I think he needs to go right now, so thanks a lot for joining in. But you...
Yeah, I quickly
Yeah.
end.
Yeah. But anyway, listen. So 2-0 to South Korea and Malaysia. What about Jordan and Bahrain? If you can just give your
3-0 Jordan.
okay. And before you go, Saudi Arabia against Thailand. This is a match which could decide who tops Group F. But Saudi Arabia should beat Thailand easily. I'm going for, I mean, maybe not easily, but 2-1. Not 2-1, 3-1 to the Saudis. I think they'll want to impress Mancini before going to the knockout stage. What say you?
2-2 draw.
2-2 draw. Well, a 2-2 draw will suit Thailand just fine. And it means that Oman will be sweating, obviously, hoping to try to secure a win that will at least guarantee them a third place position and a chance to fight for a place in the knockout stages. And up against a hapless Kyrgyzstan team that were soundly beaten today as well, I cannot see beyond a 2-0 Oman win. What say you?
3-0. 3-1 Oman.
3-1 to Oman. Okay. So that sort of concludes this. And I know that we had to rush a little bit, but obviously once I refresh the page, it will confirm that Saudi Arabia, in fact, did beat Kyrgyzstan 2-0. And they are, of course, top of the group now, and they've secured their spot in the knockout stages. But a very quick stream, obviously talking about the fortunes. And next week, hopefully for this game week, we will try and get you a watch along, or certainly in the knockout stages once Sports 18 gets their act together and decides to focus on the knockout stages. We will certainly provide a watch along if we can. And we certainly will want to bring you coverage of the semis or the final. Definitely not. But until then, thanks a lot for joining in. Thanks to those of you who will be watching it on playback. We do hope that you will watch this video. Do leave a comment. Do please subscribe. Click the bell button for notifications and follow Mr. Trollope on his socials, on Instagram, on Twitter, and also on TikTok. And we will, of course, see you very soon. But Hanno, thanks very much again for joining in and keeping me company. And I will also say good luck to Bafana Bafana. I hope they do quite well in the AFCON, and you can watch all coverage of that, all analysis on this channel, of course, with Hanno. Sadly, I don't get coverage of the AFCON. And as far as the Asian Cup is concerned, we're going to try and make sure that we do a lot more to provide you information from this tournament. But until then, thanks a lot for joining in. Do enjoy the rest of your Sunday night. Have a peaceful one. Enjoy the upcoming week. Enjoy the sports that are on offer. And we will hope to see you again very soon. Until then, stay safe, stay happy. Don't do anything that Hanno or I wouldn't do. For now, though, as always, it is farewell to thee and goodbye and God bless from all of us here to each and every one of you. Cheers.